Here we are. It is Tuesday afternoon, about 1 o'clock. Yeah, I kind of damaged myself last week working so hard, so I'm dragging ass today, but I digress. So, I need to pull this all back apart and get in there and touch up those corners, grind them a little bit, and then I need to put some paint down on top of everything. I've got a new dryer and I've got a new discharge hose for the AC that needs to get put on. I need to hook the tranny cooler lines back up. I've got a transmission cooler coming, which is probably going to go over here. So yeah, one of the things I want to do is I got to flush the tranny fluid. So once upon a time, I watched a TikTok, a YouTube video. I think it was a YouTube video. There was a mechanic at a shop, and a customer came in with a Civic coupe with a tranny that was slipping really bad. It was high mileage. The car was weathered. Not horrible, but not something you'd want to put $4,000 into unless you had some kind of a sentimental attachment to it. And so he pulled the pan on the transmission, and it was clean. Wasn't any metal in there, and there wasn't much, mud or, sediment in the bottom of the pan. But these transmissions, you can't change the filter. You have to disassemble the transmission to get to the filter. So he took a chance, and he basically filled a long tube up with transmission fluid and blew it back into the transmission through the pressure side of the tranny cooler line and essentially flushed the filter out. And he did this several times. Put it all back together, tranny worked perfect. So, the customer's out, I don't know, $100, $200, and they're back on the road. So this thing, the one time I did drive it, I drove it to the car wash, which was maybe a quarter mile away. The transmission shifted fine. I mean, I didn't go into overdrive, but it seemed fine. But the fluid that came out of there was dark, and it was really thick, like straight Lucas transmission fluid supplement stuff. Sticky, It didn't smell burnt or anything. I didn't see any metal in it. So, yeah, I want to get all that crap out of there. My plan is I've got a fuel pump that a customer warranty returned that actually there's nothing wrong with it. So before we send it back, I'm going to use it to push fluid into the transmission. I'll use my air gun to blow it in, and I'll basically fill the transmission up through that cooler line, and I'm going to put one of those inline magnetic filters in there to catch any metal. So I need to do that today while the transmission's out or the radiator's out. So I got to tighten those fittings up, make sure they're clocked correctly. The cooler will be here today or tomorrow, I don't know, but I'll get those welds touched up. I'll get that painted, all that stuff painted underneath there. I'll get the dryer swapped. I'll get the discharge hose swapped. I'll have all that stuff swapped over, and then maybe I can work on some other things if there's still time. I don't know. We'll see. But I'll show you what I got done for the lunchtime arts and crafts. So this is the top of the core support. I got it sanded, etch primed, and painted. It doesn't have to look great because you're not even going to see it under that cover, but I didn't want to leave it all bare metal and just looking nasty. I need to go ahead and pop the bushings in to it. So the other things I did here, down on the other end. So I got the Bluetooth in, I got it all wired up. I've actually got it wired to a stereo plug. I did plug it in and it powers up and it connected to my phone, but I don't have any speakers, so I couldn't honestly tell you whether or not it was playing music. I need to get in here and kind of file the holes a little better so it'll sit in there like it's supposed to. A buddy of mine's got a piece of 20 gauge stainless he's going to give me, and so that'll cover that up. I need to get the switch put in there for the fog lights. But yeah, there's the dash. That's how it's gonna look basically. All right, time to get busy. All right, so I might go ahead and put a little washer shim there because I don't much care for how close the radiator tank is to the bracket. But you know, that's how it came out. It came out pretty good. Looks like it's gonna hold it there without it making contact. I'm just gonna be able to move a little bit. So yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna pull this all out now, get in there and work on the AC lines. Looks like we got some weather coming. It's supposed to rain today, but then it went and said it wasn't gonna rain today. There's your line. The temperature's dropped about 5 degrees here in the last 10 minutes, so it's getting cold. I got this all in primer, and I'm gonna go ahead and take that broken piece off and get the new line put on, and start doing all that before I put the paint on. All right, got some paint on there. We got a wind chill of 30 right now. I think it's 54 degrees, but yeah. So far no moisture, but the wind has blown everything off the roof of the car. So I gotta go find it, and I gotta clean this up real quick. In case it starts raining, I can just push this thing in real quick, keep it out of the moisture. For now, I need to go inside and get a jacket. It's getting a wee bit chilly. We're gonna let this paint set up a little bit. Alrighty, so this hose is not gonna work as is because where it comes out. So originally the hose came down and looped up here, so it needs to come right where this square tubing is. So what I'm going to do is one of two things. Is most likely what I'm going to do is cut these ferrules off, take the hose off, and get just a straight piece of like 4 foot, 3 foot, however long I need. And I'm going to have it come over here and then up and then into the condenser. So I don't think that'll affect anything, and then I'll have enough clearance I don't have to worry about it rubbing on anything. I think it'll be okay. This went together all right. I bent this bracket over, put the screw in it. I got that in there. This is sitting roughly where it needs to sit. I'll have to play with it. Clearance to the belt is tight, but it's not going to hit unless the belt comes off, breaks off or something. So, wiring harness, it will be zip tied to the fan shrouds. But yeah, I don't know what the temperature is now, but last time I checked, we were down in the low 40s. Temperature's dropping big time, so my hands are about frozen. So I'm gonna call it a day. I didn't get a lot done, but I got things figured out, so we will see you tomorrow. Okay, it's Wednesday. Had to spend an hour or two on the phone with the health insurance and the rural district clinic and all that crap. Anyway, a late start. So let me show you where I'm at. So I jumped in this to see if I could just really quick get this end cap kind of in there. But realistically, I need to pull that panel, that lower valance panel off, which does actually come off. I can straighten out that damage right there. There's a little bit more over here. Also, I want to pull the top panel off and fix that damage. But I can do that later. Realistically, that needs to come off for me to work on that and do it right. And like I said, once I do that, I'm just going to do the whole damn thing. So, where I'm at, the trailer cooler came in there. So let me show you what I'm doing. All right, just a real simple one. If I was doing anything serious, like, if I was pulling a bunch of trailers with the Jeep, I wouldn't go with one this small. I probably wouldn't even go with one this simple. These aren't super efficient as far as cooling goes, although they do flow really nice. I don't ever plan on pulling anything bigger than a tent trailer or a lawnmower or the golf cart behind this, if I even bother to put a trailer hitch on it. However, just for longevity goes, you gotta have a tranny cooler. There is no space in front to mount this. Maybe in the very middle, possibly. I don't want to see it, though. My plan was to mount it here in the corner where there's plenty of space. That's not going to work. This thing's actually bigger than I thought. I might be able to mount it in here. I mean, it's not pretty. It won't get a lot of airflow either, although it's not really. It'll give me a little extra capacity. I don't need to worry about this at the moment. What I usually like to do is I'll run it on the pressure side, the inside. I'll run it through the aftermarket cooler and then back into the factory cooler and then back into the transmission. That way, the auxiliary cooler can do a better job of getting the heat out of it. And if it's cold out or early mornings, when you don't want it to run super cold, the factory cooler can warm it back up. So it'll act more like a thermostat. Ideally, you want your tranny fluid to be about the same temperature as your coolant. So, running it through the radiator makes sense. But if you have any situation where you have a lot of heat, pulling a trailer, or like out here, we have so much wind. If I'm bucking a headwind at 65 miles an hour, and I'm bucking like yesterday, a 75, 80 mile an hour headwind, you want extra cooling because, that's like pulling a trailer. Even a 20 mile an hour headwind, you want the extra cooling. So, to regulate it, keep it as close to coolant, we run it back into the coolant. There may be some situations where, again, that really high headwind, pulling a trailer, you don't want it going back through the original cooler. You want it going through here. But in that case, you'd want a bigger cooler. We're not going to worry about that too much. And this was actually pretty cheap. Really cheap. There's really not much on it to fail. One of these joints, maybe, but I've never seen one of these things fail. I've seen them get beat to hell, but I've never seen one fail. We'll figure out where to mount it eventually. Who knows? We might even mount it down here in that space. Maybe. Probably not. Okay, I am going to work on flushing the tranny fluid like I said I was going to do yesterday before the weather got way too nasty. It's cool today. I think it's in the mid to high 50s. We've got a moderate breeze, light wind, maybe 25 mile an hour gust out of the north. So it's on the cooler side, but it's not miserable like it was yesterday. It's actually pretty nice. And tomorrow I think it's going to be a little better, but time to get busy. Okay, so this is where I'm going to end up putting this thing, and these zip ties are definitely temporary, so don't blame me. It'll be mounted about like so. Not going to get a whole lot of airflow there, but again, I don't really need it. It's not there for trailer pulling, like I said. It's just there for capacity more than anything. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull it back off and get the hose put on. I'm just going to loop it. So I'm going to run to one side into there, through there. This side will be run out here. And then I'll just cut it wherever I need it. I do need to tighten up the fittings on the radiator. I already got most of the fluid out of the transmission. I'm going to go ahead and start it up again and make sure. And then I'll work on pushing the new fluid back through it. Okay, it's been running for about 25 minutes, 30 minutes. And I started here, maybe there, I don't know, somewhere in here. Yeah. It's taking forever, but you know, it's got to pump it through the pump and then through the filter. When this is done, I'm going to go ahead and blow through it with the air gun. Okay, so we're moving over here on the AC line. I've got it bent to clear everything. Originally, it came down out here, looped up, and came up over here to the condenser. But since I put this cross member in, it's in the way. So it's going to loop underneath the engine cradle and come through here, in between that hard line and the dryer, up to here. So, obviously, the new line was too short. Cut the ferrules, pulled the hose off. We've got hose at work. I'm going to get new ones. Now, typically though, on these, if they're barbed like this, they use hose clamps. The lines made for ferrules usually have a couple dips in them, because if you crimp these down, the edges of these will usually cut the hose. So I don't know. I mean, the hose obviously isn't cut, but it did come off pretty easy once I cut the ferrules. I plan on actually crimping them because we've got all that at work. So what I'll have to do is tomorrow go down to the store, get 4 feet of the AC line, come over here and basically build what I need, and probably hose clamp it, mark it, and then, you know, obviously I'll figure out exactly how long the hose needs to be, and then crimp it. I crimp it on my lunch break. And that should take care of that hose. That hard line is okay. The dryer's okay. I'm going to take a piece of mouse pad, just a little quarter-size piece of mouse pad, glue it to the bottom. That way I don't have to worry about it rubbing a hole in it. So we're going to wait for this to fill up, and I'll take care of little piddly things while I'm working on it. One thing I want to show you. So the steering wheel came out all right. Took forever to dry. And I don't know, it's probably still soft. Yeah, it's still soft. I can still put a fingernail. Let's see. You can probably see it better like that. Yeah, see, I can still put a fingernail mark in it. Oh, it'll probably take a month to dry. Is that a bug? Maybe. Other than that, though, it came out pretty good. You can see a palm print in here from me working on stuff. But my plan is to get a piston between 2 and 3 inches and use that as a horn button. It won't actually trigger the horn. It'll just cover this. I got lucky. I found in my stash of mess of parts, I found one that was just perfect to fit the escutcheon. Got it centered. It's actually bolted on, and I got double-sided tape on the inside just to make sure it doesn't vibrate. These can be painted. Hopefully the piston will hide those. If it doesn't, I don't really care. I'll just paint them. But the color goes great with the dash, especially since the steering wheel was so nasty. The padding really isn't too bad, but I can always cover it. Yep. I just need to find a piston to make that with. Okay, on to the next project. Okay, I got it all put together. There's no leaks. Obviously I can't let it run real long, but the cooler was getting warm, definitely warm. We're about a quart low. Or not a quart low. We're on the add line, so that's about half a quart, I think, or half a pint. I'm going to go ahead and put some trans tune in it. But it goes right into gear, and it, reverse, forward, everything seems okay. Put the parking brake on, and it drug the tires. So, I think we're going to be all right. Not that I was having any problems, but, I just really didn't like the look of that fluid. It was very thick, very sticky, very much like Lucas. Anyway, so tomorrow, we will work on the condenser and the AC hose. I'm going to use the tranny cooler hose, or the fuel line that I was using for the tranny cooler hose to pump the fluid in. I'll blow it out and then go ahead and basically make a hose out of that, mark it, and then I'll go to the store and then make one out of actual barricade hose, I guess they call it, or, AC hose. And I need to get a bunch of sleeves. We've got some stuff down there for hydraulic hoses that's designed to keep them from rubbing holes in themselves. I'm going to go ahead and do all these hoses that I've done, because everything is so tight now, they may rub a hole. Who knows? Yeah, we're doing real good. I got to put together a list. I need to buy those 6mm nuts. I need to buy those 8mm nuts. I got to make these things. Just take the 8mm nut, weld it to just a little plate, and then weld the plate to this upside down with the nut in the hole to get rid of these goofy things and try to make as much of the hardware on this car metric as possible. But that's it for tonight. Tomorrow's Thursday, and I have to go back to work Friday, so I'll get done what I can tomorrow. Okay, I got the hose trimmed. See all my little chunks there, marked, ready to go. I'm gonna run to town real quick and go make the correct hose. Yeah, we're doing pretty good there. Once I've got it mounted, then I'll tear off all this cardboard. These will be mounted permanently. Yeah, I'm just making sure here I've got everything I think we're okay. All right, I'm gonna head out. Well, I was gonna drive the Cricket, but it's out of gas, and I don't have the money to go putting gas in cars that I don't drive right now. I got to make sure I save it for work. So, oh well. Looks like I'm taking the Mazda instead. Here we go. Okay, running a vacuum on it now. Got back from town. I made the hose up. I'm not going to show it to you because there's some weird fuckery going on. I did have to take a detour. My neighbor's about 80 years old and asked me if I could help her move a couch, so took care of that. So a number 4 AC hose is supposed to be 5/16. A number 6 is 13/32. The problem is those fittings I had, it is way too big for a 5/16. I don't think you could stretch it enough to get it in there. And at 13/32, it just dropped into it. So I tried anyway, and I got the ferrule, and again, the number 4 ferrule wouldn't even let the fitting go down the side of it. And the number 6 ferrule just dropped all the way through it. So I got them crimped as tight as I possibly can, and you can still hold the hose and turn the fitting inside the hose. It's moderately hard, but you shouldn't be able to do that. So it's probably going to leak. I don't know. It might hold. Who knows? We're going to find out if it'll hold a vacuum, though. If it'll hold a vacuum, then the hell with it. I'll charge it up. If it won't, well, then I'll have to go online and try to find something. I did a quick 5-minute test or check, and the only hoses I could find that were 3/8 were for like gauges, like those are 3/8. So I don't know, we'll see. Probably should have recorded that with my face instead of just sitting here looking at the car. Anyway, it doesn't seem like I got a lot done. Like you said, one bite at a time. But these are all things to get done that are time consuming. And some of the stuff needs to get done with a degree of precision. Maybe not perfect, but you know, I got to make sure that the hoses aren't rubbing on stuff that's going to rub holes through them. I got to make sure that, you know, there's space between things. One thing I'm going to do is go ahead and take the original hose, the fitting that's not broken. I'm going to cut the ferrule and get it out of the hose and check it out and measure it and see whether it's 5/16 or 13/32 or 3/8. So I'm going to do that real quick. So according to the gauges, we're sitting on negative 30 inches of vacuum. And we're just going to let it sit here for a while and see if it moves.